On this Mother's Day and on each Sunday moving forward, I, along with clergy and clergy organizations that make up the African American Clergy Collective of Tennessee, which is a 501c4 advocacy organization that brings together African American clergy from across the state of Tennessee, will be sharing a weekly update called Faith in 5. With the blazing fast pace that changes are being made to our lives by the current federal administration and the various biases of news outlets in covering them, it's important that a Black faith perspective be offered to help us to carve a pathway to hope in increasingly frustrating times. And so each Sunday for about no more than 5 minutes, I just want to give an update to us. And briefly today, I want to offer perspective on the first 100 days of the administration of the 47th President of the United States. I really don't have time. We could talk about the mass deportations of undocumented migrants, the pivot of the Department of Justice from protecting the rights of marginalized populations and investigating practices of law enforcement agencies, to now focusing on what they're calling anti-Christian bias, or we can speak about the thousands of persons who've been laid off from career employment with the federal government. We could talk about tariffs, we can talk about inflation. However, one of the ways this administration has adversely affected basic human needs is by freezing federal funds in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, known as USDA. Since the new administration has taken office, USDA has paused $500 million of funding for the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which is a core nutrition program that purchases U.S. commodities for emergency food providers that help households obtain sufficient nutrition. They've also canceled 2 federal programs that help schools and food banks buy fresh food directly from local farmers. This leaves over 50 million people who rely on federal food programs literally not knowing where their next meal will come from. Congress presently is considering a cut to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program that we know as SNAP, a cut that will amount to $230 billion over the next 10 years. This is a moral crisis. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 27 and 28 says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom is due, when it's in your power to act. Do not say to your neighbor, 'Come back tomorrow and I'll give it to you,' when you already have it with you." This nation clearly has the resources and the power to act. However, this administration is lacking compassion and a moral compass. In addition to being immoral, it is also unconstitutional. Article 1, Section 9, Clause number 7 of the U.S. Constitution, which is better known as the Appropriations Clause, Congress is empowered to determine federal spending, not the executive branch, which means our system of checks and balances is broken. And it is important now more than ever that we don't remain silent, but that we challenge those who represent us, whether we voted for them or not. We are their constituents, and they must represent our interest. It falls on us not just to be aware and to sound an alarm, but it falls to us to act. And so I want to encourage you to reach out to the federal legislative delegation from our state, to Congressman Cohen, to Senators Haggerty and Blackburn as their constituents, and let them know how we disagree with any further cuts to federal funding as relates to meeting basic human needs of the American people who they have been sworn to take an oath to not only protect the Constitution, but to work towards the well-being of all of God's children and those who make up these United States of America. That's your Faith in 5 for this Mother's Day of 2025.